Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over the Ember Edge KX100 pad here. This pad is pretty much overhyped right now, pretty much all over Twitter for the past 2 to 3 weeks. This pad has been pretty much blowing up and taking up all my Twitter space. Everyone's been saying it's probably one of the best releases of 2024, and I do want to clear up some things here. All those people that are saying that, there's a few things I need to say. You can still enjoy a pad if the pad is a bad quality pad. That is a preference. Pads are preferences. You can enjoy something that is objectively low quality as long as you enjoy the surface of the pad. That is something okay. And I'm glad that a lot of people are enjoying it. And if it is their best pad for them, that's great. But there are some very glaring issues with this pad that people are not speaking about and that make me not recommend it. They reached out to me, they offered me the pad, and they said if I wanted even a code, and I said no, the pad is bad. I explained to them my opinions beforehand. I told them why it was bad, and I told them that I would be making a video on it, so they know that this video is coming. But without wasting too much time, here's the Ember Edge KX100. It comes inside of a very large flat ship box here. It says it's about a 3 out of 5 on the speed scale here. I definitely do not agree with that. I give it maybe a 4.5 or a 5 instead of what this would be a 6 on the 10 scale, 10 being something like glass and 1 being something like a QCK heavy. This definitely is around on the slower side. It's balanced, but definitely, like I said, on that slower side of balanced. So for a hybrid pad, this is not the best thing that I've seen. It's probably one of the worst. And I don't think it's a terrible pad. I just don't think it's very good at all, especially at the price point. And I think that's mainly my knock here. The price point makes this pad, this mouse pad, pretty terrible. So let's get into the actual features here and why I think it's bad. Going over the surface here, my surface has a lot of bumps. And like I said, it came flat shipped, so should not have any bumps here. I have a bump up top. Whenever I'm moving my hand across, I have this little pocket right here. It's just a little indent and groove. Moving across the right side, I have one right here, which is a high point on the pad for me. Over this side of the pad here, I have a bump here and a bump here. These are just like little speed bumps and little grooves and indents on the pad. On the surface, there's one right here as well. Pretty much every time I move my hand around or I move my mouse around, I can feel those divots. I can feel those grooves. This high point here is very, very noticeable for me on my pad. And like I said, I'm not sure if the pad is meant to be like this. I'm pretty sure it's not. It's a quality control thing. But that really throws me off. Like I said, on the speed scale here, these are some core pad skates. Obviously, these are going to be slower than the Jade dots that I'm going to be using. These obviously have some more friction to them compared to the Jade dots, but not by a crazy amount. As you guys can see, you know, this one was landing about here, this one's landing about there, same amount of power, nothing crazy. And these are the Jade dots, these are the core pads. Using these also feel very, very different based on how you use them. The core pads feel like they glide evenly pretty much the whole entire time on this pad. Full size skates just feel really, really good, even on something that has fuller size skates here, like this terrible mouse. It glides pretty normally. It doesn't pick up too much friction, especially for being a large skate here. It doesn't pick up much friction at all. But while using something like dot skates, it actually picks up friction quite a bit. And I'm just going to assume that's because of the rough texture and rough surface of this pad. It's not abrasive. It's not going to cause any rashing or anything like that. It's still a soft surface. It's definitely very plushy as well. But it's still very rough. And using dot skates on it, whenever you're changing direction, something that dot skates are really, really good at, it does the exact opposite. It picks up frictions on the edges of the skates. That's what I've noticed. You also get this scratchy sound that, you know, something that shouldn't be happening for a cloth pad. So I don't really recommend dot skates. They're definitely still usable. If you like dot skates, you can definitely still use them, but you do get more of a bumpy feel. You do get more of a friction feel. You do get more of that catching and scratching feel compared to something like full size skates that just feel pretty much even and smooth the whole way through. So definitely something to be noteworthy of. If you guys do end up getting the pad, obviously not for me because I don't recommend it. It does feel better with full-size skates compared to dot skates. Not that it feels bad, like I said, it just picks up friction quite a bit more. It feels like you have to apply a little bit more pressure, which is something that you shouldn't have to be doing on dot skates. It's pretty counterintuitive on the dots. Now moving outwards onto the edges, the edges are probably the worst part of this pad. It's probably like the cheapest thing that they focused on, or they didn't focus on, I could say. But here is the top of the pad. It looks pretty good. It doesn't look bad at all. As you guys can see there, the stitching is pretty tight to the surface. It's not the tightest. There's definitely better here, but it's still pretty tight to the surface. There's not much of a gap. But the actual fabric itself is very lightweight and very flimsy. So the best way to explain that is whenever I hold the pad like this, I'm going to move my hand over the edges here to the right. It creates separation in the stitching or the fabric, and when I move it over to the left, it closes back up, which is something that shouldn't be happening. So over the course of time, the repercussions for that are this: you get a shit ton of fraying on the pad. I'll definitely be posting some pictures on it because it's definitely something that shouldn't be happening, but I know why it happens too. One, they used a very cheap fabric, and then two, they left the edge above the surface level. Even for using a cheaper fabric, if they left the edges below the surface level, what that means is basically this is the surface of the pad. Whenever you're moving your hand off, I guess a good way to explain it is with the mouse. Whenever you're moving it off, there is a little bump right here that you can feel. The mouse goes up instead of falling off. It goes up and then it falls off because the edges are sitting above the surface of the pad, which is definitely not something that you want on any mouse pad. Pretty much all the mouse pads nowadays have that stitching subsurface level, even on a 3mm pad. This is a 3mm. Even on 3mm pads, usually the stitching should be surface level or below. It should never be above like the way it is on this pad. And with that, whenever you do lay your arm on it, if you have rough skin or if you're using a sleeve, if you're playing with a sweater, hoodie, whatever it may be, whenever you're moving your hand over it like this, that fabric catches. It creates a lot of static friction along these soft fabric edges here. It creates a lot of fuzz and a lot of fraying. And then eventually it causes it to separate. And like I said earlier, here I'm not even going to be, you guys can see the gap there compared to down here. There's no gap. And like down here, you guys can see the white gap that already exists right there. And that's just from me playing naturally. That stitching is coming pretty much apart and fraying quite a bit. And for a pad that costs $50, which is artisan level, which is wall hack level with their new cloth pads, which is Lethal's Pro Series sort of price, definitely not worth whenever you're looking at everything. Like I said, my surface has bumps onto it. I'm not sure if that's all surfaces. I am just reviewing my copy. My edges are fraying. It creates a lot of static friction along the edges. It's above surface level. Definitely not something that you want to be seeing. And then we have the base, which is the most boring and bland thing of all. I don't really want to talk too much about it, but it pretty much does not have much hold to it. It's not terrible. It's not going to slide on you while you're gaming, obviously, because you're applying pressure downwards. That's friction. It's not going to move. But whenever you're just lightly moving the pad around, it does move a substantial bit. Especially if you pick up the edges, you can see that it has pretty much no give, or it has a lot of give and pretty much no grip at all. It's pretty much floating like paper. And now comparing it to some other pads here, just so you guys have a reference on the base, because like I said, this is fairly boring. There's not much to talk about. Here we have the Gecko grip pad with the silicone base. Obviously, this is something new, 2024. I'll be reviewing this pad next. This pad, obviously, you put it on, you just wipe it down just to make sure it's staying flat, and you have no give. Look at my monitor. Very light, very heavy. Doesn't matter if nothing's moving here except my monitor and everything else on my desk. So this grip is really, really good. And as you guys can see here, it's pretty dirty too. Like it's not cleaned and it's still gripping really, really, really well, which is something that the Ember Edge pad does not do. Here is something that is maybe a fourth of the weight. This Ember Edge pad is actually fairly heavy. Let me grab that again. It is a very, very heavy pad. This thing weighs probably 4 times the amount that my Neptune does. This Neptune is very light with the Japanese rubber foam base here, and you guys can even see here on this, it's so light that it has this curvature here that when I put it on my desk, it creates air bubbles. You have an air bubble here, air bubble there, air bubble there, air bubble in that corner as well. And even with all of that being said, whenever you put it down on your desk, just give it a pat here. Even with the air bubbles, you guys can see that there's an air bubble underneath there. Even when I put that down on a super lightweight pad, it doesn't move, it doesn't budge compared to the Ember Edge pad, which is something that's very, very impressive. I'm not sure how you made a heavy pad that has no grip, considering it's heavy and it shouldn't be like that. It slides way too much compared to the any other pad that I have, and that pretty much really throws it off for me. That being said, this pad's been overhyped, and that's because everyone's been getting one for free. So if you guys do want a free pad, reach out to Ember Edge. Reach out to Ember Edge on Twitter and DM them and ask them for a free pad. And if they give you one, great. And if they don't, unlucky. But for a free pad, it's fine. It's a free pad. There's not much to complain about it. It's free. But if you guys are going to be spending your money on it, like $50 to buy a pad, do not buy it. It's really, really bad. You can enjoy the surface. You can enjoy that. Don't get me wrong, that is a preference, but overall the quality of the pad is pretty bad. I'd say it's very subpar, sub-average, maybe a 3 out of 10 on the scale. Definitely not something that I could recommend. You have edges that are above surface level and fray after about a week of use. You have a surface that has bumps on it and is not consistent. It's also rough, so it's not a safe recommendation for people. And then you have a lackluster base that doesn't do much. I'm not sure how this pad is getting so much attention. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure it's just because people are getting it for free and they're enjoying it as a free pad, which I think that's fine. But as a paid product, do not buy this pad. I will leave some links into some other people's descriptions or some other people's videos in the description, so you guys can check out their reviews. Their opinions may differ from mine, and that is okay. But that is my honest opinions on the pad and why I would not recommend it. But thank you guys for watching. I know it's a little bit of a longer video, more of a rant session type of thing. But if you guys enjoyed, just let me know what pad you guys want to see me review next and your thoughts on the Ember Edge. If you have one yourself, make sure to reach out to them, get a free pad. You can try it for yourself. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.